Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome back to a new YouTube video. Hope you guys are all doing well. Today in this video, I actually wanted to break down a previous video that I had posted a couple of videos ago, and that was the 2 weeks on the road video. Now, essentially that entire video was me just kind of silently going about doing 2 weeks on the road, camping, photographing nature, just enjoying. And that video is definitely what I want to be kind of focusing on in the future, but I also want to make videos like this to kind of accompany the larger piece and kind of break down the photography process of the actual video. So what I mean by this is, in this video, I want to go through basically the entire road trip and explain kind of where I went and what I photographed, and kind of give you guys some feedback on the images that I shot and tell you kind of what I think about what I got. Long story short, these are some of my favorite landscape photos I've taken in a while, so that was pretty fun. But I really want to kind of go in depth a little bit on this video and just share with you some of the footage, some of the photos, and give you a little bit more backstory to the entire trip as a whole. So hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let's go ahead and dive right in and get started. So the trip started out in Northern California, which is kind of where I started the actual video itself, but obviously I drove many hours to actually get to that spot. And I shot along the way up to kind of the border of Oregon, which was really beautiful, and explored a lot of those different areas up there, which I don't really get the chance to explore often because it's a pretty far drive from LA. It's probably about 10 hours or so and a little under 1,000 miles to get there. So not really a place that I go often. I usually do it when I'm kind of in between drives up to Seattle, which I do fairly frequently, I guess, but it's not, as often as I would like to. So I love to take my time up there. I love to explore. And as I mentioned before in a previous video, I'm really looking to make a book of the entire California coast. So this is kind of something that I've really been kind of prioritizing over other things. I just really want to make sure that I can get a really nice variety of stuff. And to do that, I need to be there more often. So this whole area was really fun to explore. I was able to camp in some really beautiful beaches, and I had one sunset in particular, which was pretty amazing. I was camping above this beach, just absolutely beautiful scenery, and the sunset was gorgeous. So I shot some photos on the Mamiya 7ii, obviously, and the Contax T3. Those are the two main cameras that I shot on for that trip. And we got some pretty nice stuff. I would say overall, pretty happy with the sunset as a whole. Really beautiful, and the colors were phenomenal, especially for Northern California. It's usually a little less saturated up there, but the sunset was gorgeous. These couple images in particular, I think, really highlight how beautiful this area was. I tried to kind of compress the scene a little bit and just show how beautiful the light was. Obviously, there's a lot of layers going on in this scene, so I really wanted to kind of share and kind of evoke that in the actual images themselves. It was also incredibly windy, and the clouds were coming in quickly, so it kind of gave this really interesting glow towards the end of the evening. I snapped this photo on my Contax T3, which I think is one of my favorite photos from the night. And it's not necessarily maybe technically the best photo, but I think it kind of captures what the night felt like, which is obviously what I tried to do with my photography. I want people to kind of feel what it was like to be there. And sometimes that means that, not necessarily the best photo technically, sometimes means a little bit more. There was also this really gorgeous road that I got to drive up to kind of camp above the beach, which was so pretty. And I snapped this photo on the Mamiya 7ii, I believe it was Kodak Portrait 400 per usual. And I thought the colors turned out really nice in this one. It's a little underexposed, so that's why it's a little bit grainy. But I would say for the most part, this photo is one of my favorites actually from the entire trip. So we started the trip off pretty well with this photo. And I love how it turned out. I think it just shows a really cool kind of sense of the actual landscape itself. You have these beautiful mountains in the background. You have the ocean right there in front of you. And you have this kind of really steep, jagged road that goes up the ridgeline. And I was able to drive this myself and shoot alongside it, which was beautiful. And yeah, overall, just a great sunset to start the trip. So moving on from California into Oregon, I headed up the Oregon coast and camped with some friends for a few nights, which was incredibly fun. And I got to kind of relax for a little bit for the first time on that trip. I'd done 3 days of solo camping before meeting my friends, so it was great to see some friendly faces after a while. And I was able to shoot quite a bit on the coast, which was beautiful. It was a great couple days. We camped on this ridgeline above the ocean, which was beautiful. I didn't shoot too much up there. We did get a really nice sunset, which I shot. Essentially, the sun was kind of peering right on top of these clouds, and it was just stunning. I flew the drone, which is awesome. Really beautiful sunset with some friends, and we got a few really nice images from it, which was nice as well. But I didn't shoot too much on this particular day. However, the following days I shot quite a bit. So funny enough, I actually went to this one particular beach twice, once on the way up and once on the way down. And I included those kind of right next to each other in the video. The first one on the way up, it was cloudy, which I honestly really enjoyed. It was fun to shoot some black and white film. I mainly shot HP5 for this, which was great. Black and white honestly is something that I want to shoot a lot more because it's really nice not to have to worry about the color. Obviously, you can just focus on the actual composition, and I do think that makes you a better photographer over time. So I really want to start kind of prioritizing shooting black and white, but I don't have a reason for color, and I've heard other photographers talk about this as well. I think it's a great idea, honestly, to not always shoot color, and that way you can kind of keep your mind and your creative juices flowing. But on the way back down, this is probably, I would say, the most beautiful night of the trip. I didn't really know where I was going to camp and ended up actually just parking on the side of the road next to this couple, and we watched sunset, which was super fun. But I shot quite a bit, which was great. I shot on the Mamiya, and I shot not only on the 65mm but also the 150mm lens as well, and we got some really, really beautiful stuff. I love the 150mm shots because it compresses the background so nicely, and you have these really beautiful jagged rocks kind of just towering above the ocean, and being able to compress that with the ocean in the back, just beautiful. Great sunset. And again, as you guys can probably tell, I mainly try to shoot when the light is really nice. Obviously, I don't shoot a ton during the day. I just don't really think that the photos turn out that great usually, especially landscape stuff. Obviously, once the light starts getting even slightly more directional, that's usually when I start shooting. And this sunset was an absolutely amazing way to cap the day. Now, once I visited family in Washington, again, I headed back down. And the next kind of scene in this video was Northern California again, but this was a little bit closer to San Francisco. So I shot around this really beautiful area right off the coast on Highway 1, one of my favorite areas to shoot. And I stopped for the night in Bodega Bay, which, again, another really favorite area of mine. Shot along that entire coast for an evening, kind of made myself a sandwich and just relaxed. And we got some cool stuff there as well. It was a really beautiful drive down, and the sun was shining. Got some cool stuff kind of midday as well as at sunset. And the coolest thing about Bodega Bay is all these really beautiful houses that kind of face the ocean. And when the light gets low, it starts to get really soft and the windows start to reflect the sunset. So I shot a few photos of the actual houses right on the ocean. And there's this one photo in particular with the road in the foreground. This is one of my favorites of the trip. Honestly, one of my last photos of the trip. And it just kind of, I think, encapsulates that area really well. And yeah, a personal favorite of mine. After this, I headed down the central coast of California and ended my trip with one more night of camping. This was a beautiful campsite I've been to many, many times, and I shot a decent amount here. I didn't shoot a ton for sunset. I was kind of focused on getting some stuff for a brand I was shooting for, but overall, the sunset, again, just beautiful. California is pretty hard to beat when it comes to that. Sunsets, sunrises, just light in general. The light in California is incredible. So kind of overall with this trip, I was looking at the collection of images that I have from the trip and kind of the story that they tell. And honestly, when I'm on a trip like this, I don't think about the story too much, as more of just kind of shooting as much as I can and shooting the stuff that just interests me. I think that's why I carry two different cameras with me, is because the images on the T3 tend to look a lot different than the images that I've taken on my Mamiya 7ii. And I think the reason that it's so different is because the T3 is just so easy to pull out and take a quick photo and be done. So I would say those moments are a lot more candid. There's more photos of friends, more photos of people. And overall, I think I feel a little more connected to these images on a personal level. But I think when it comes to the images taken on medium format, these are the beautiful ones. These are the ones that have all the detail, the beautiful color. And I think the Mamiya, in my opinion, is one of the best cameras for landscape photography. I shoot tons of images on this camera, and pretty much all of them I would say are landscapes or spaces or just kind of scenes in general. The Mamiya is a great road trip companion, and I've been using it for over 4 years now on various road trips. So I think the combo between these two cameras is one that I really enjoy, and I haven't really found another combo that works as well as these two do. But overall, I think the images tell a pretty cool story, especially since this trip was my first solo road trip of this magnitude. I camped for 6 nights just by myself, camped 10 nights in total out of the 2 weeks that I was gone. So a lot of time in the tent, which was great. This is exactly what I needed to kind of start the fall and winter season here in California and just get kind of motivated and inspired again. But I wanted to make a cool video, as I said, about kind of the trip itself, The previous video, if you haven't watched it, is one of my favorite videos I've ever put together. But I think this video will shed a little bit more light on the actual trip itself and explain a backstory on some of the images that I shot. If you guys want to see a link to any of these images, I will leave a link to that down below, to the full gallery of all the images that I shot on this trip. Overall, though, I had a blast, and I honestly had a lot of fun making this video. I think I want to do more of this in the future, where I kind of go out and make an actual cinematic video of the trip, but then come back and kind of dissect some of the images that I've taken as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any questions, obviously let me know down in the comments. Really appreciate the support as always, and we'll see you guys next week. Now, before this video wraps up, I did want to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Squarespace, for sponsoring today's episode. As I mentioned before, if you guys want to check out my website, there'll be many of the photos from the trip over on my gallery page, which was built with Squarespace. And Squarespace in general, obviously, is one of the best when it comes to building a website, designing a website without really any coding or hassles that usually come with custom coding a website. Squarespace makes it incredibly easy to get all that done in a simple way, and I've been using them for a long time now. To me, it's just nice knowing that I don't have to think about how to build a website. It's just one less thing I have to worry about as a freelancer and as an artist. If you guys want to check out Squarespace for yourself, there'll be a link down in the description to receive 10% off your first website or domain purchase. Thank you so much to Squarespace as always for sponsoring this video, and we'll see you guys next week.